All right, y'all. Welcome back to another edition of Collector's Market Watch, where we talk about all things Lorcana from a collector's perspective. That means chase cards, sealed product, and promos. And y'all, it has been a massive week in the hobby. There is so much stuff going on, set to set, card to card, even market to market geographies. We got things going on all over the place. We're about to unpack all of it in this episode. But y'all, if you wouldn't mind, be sure to go down and hit that subscribe button for us. It would mean a lot to us. We do Market Watch content on the channel every Tuesday and pack opening content every Sunday, every Thursday. Hop in the Discord if you want to. Link is down in the description for that. And with all that out of the way, let's dive into the market. And right off the bat, we have to talk about some things that are going on in sort of the broader market of Lorcana, both from a future perspective and also geography to geography. It was just recently announced that Lorcana will be dropping new Japanese products both in the month of December and also, I believe, February. I just have the December one up right here. It looks like Arcasia's Island, similar to what we had with the first chapter and with Floodborn. It looks like we're going to have Arcasia's Island be released in Japan. However, it also looks like that the additional asset that you are going to be able to get with one of these Japanese booster boxes is going to be a promotional Fabled pack, which I believe has up to 24 cards that you can possibly pull. I could be wrong on that number. I did hear it from another source. However, you are going to be able to pull 2 foils and 3 non-foils in that pack. I think it's an awesome idea. I wish that they would do that on the America side of things. I doubt that they will, but I mean, super, super exciting on that side of things. It's definitely going to be something that we'll end up opening on the channel, which will be super exciting. But I'll be honest, y'all, while this is super, super exciting, this is not the thing that I think is the news. What I'm looking at as the news is going to be right here. I will say I did do all I could to find a better image. This is the best one I could find. I almost didn't go with it, but it's too good a deets. It's too juicy. We have to use it. We have to look into it. It looks like these are going to be the cards that you're going to be able to pull, at least some of them that you're going to be able to pull. Obviously, there's going to be a larger card pool that can be pulled within that promotional pack than just these cards. It does look like we are seeing the Elsa in here. I believe this is the one that was teased on Reddit and some other sources a while back that, you know, they had the Japanese foiling of that card. It was announced a while back that they were going to do this, I believe. So not too surprised to see that card. However, that's a big one. I mean, that is a huge, huge, huge deal. Now, here's what I'll say. There's a lot we don't know about the Mickey Brave Little Prince that can be pulled from that promotional pack. How difficult is the card to pull? Does the card look and have the same texture and eccentricities that the US version, English version of the Mickey has? I would imagine it has got to be slightly easier to pull. I would imagine that it's not going to be 1 in 2,000 promotional packs. That would be 1 in 2,000 boxes. But at the same time, it could be. However, will this have an effect on the US version, the English version of the Mickey Brave Little Prince Iconic? Look, at this point, nothing would surprise me with that card. The card is legit walking on water right now. We're going to talk about that card a little bit more. This is usually where I'd flash that card, but I want to use that card in comparison with something else later in the episode. So we will talk about Brave Little Prince more in the episode. But here's what I will say. It's not going to rise the price, you know, with the Mickey Brave Little Prince US version. I mean, there's going to be another barrier there's going to be less barrier to entry to getting your hands on the card than there was before, right? Like, you're going to be able, if you want to, right? This is very similar with Pokemon, where they have a Japanese release and they have an English release. There are so many people right now in the Pokemon hobby that will just go after Japanese because from a ripping perspective, a collecting perspective, it's just easier to get your hands on. The artwork is like pretty close to identical, if not identical. And I know that they also are very careful on that side of the world with how they treat their product. I mean, a lot of times you'll see, like with Yu-Gi-Oh! And things like that, like the ultimate rares and the alt art rares of things, they just, like, a lot of times they just look better and they're just printed a lot better quality than you see on the Western side of the world. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen with this card, but all I know is that it is announced that it's going to be there, which I think helps drastically raise the Japanese market. And also, again, it will be interesting to see what happens with the English version of Brave Little Prince. If it sustains it and it holds up again, wouldn't shock me in the slightest. Like, honestly, that card, sometimes the community, the hobby, the collector side of it, like whoever, like sometimes the market just says this card will not be affected. It will walk on water and it will continue to walk on water. And honestly, I hope it does, because it's just an awesome, awesome symbol for what is hopefully going to be a thriving hobby going forward. I am super interested to see it. And obviously we'll see how it looks as things come out. I haven't seen any video on it. I mean, obviously we've seen the Elsa, the Epic. It looks good. It looks very similar, I believe, to the Elsa that we saw before. I mean, at the same time, like I have no idea. Obviously, that was a video that was teased earlier a couple of months ago. I have to imagine that the Mickey's going to look really good, but yeah, again, I don't know. We'll see, but it is huge news that you're going to be able to get your hands on it in Japanese form. The other big call out that I want to make is that, I mean, I guess like here's what I'll say. We have seen this out now for a few days, but I believe this happened like a day after last week's Market Watch. And again, like I always say, y'all, if it happened in the last week, I'm at least going to mention it because some of y'all get your content from right here, get your news from right here. It does look like not next set, which is Winter Spell, but the set after that, which is going to be Wilds Unknown. We will be doing Lorcana pre-release boxes. You're going to be able to get 6 packs. And also it looks like a divider, 4 dice, and 1 of 6 random promotional cards and 1 of 3 random postcards, which is pretty cool as well. Really, I mean, yes, it is. Once again, they do this in other hobbies as well. It is a way to hype the game. But honestly, from my perspective, I look at this as catering to the game player. I look at this as being able to do sealed tournaments at locals and things like that. And obviously, the competitive landscape at the national level and the world's level, like DLCs, they don't need any help, right? Like, I mean, they're absolutely killing it, right? I mean, those things get sold out in 2 seconds. They're amazing events that people want to go to. It is like the one true way that we can all come together. So it's like that's not what they're catering to here, but what they are going to probably try to cater to is getting people to go to LGSs and play this game, right? Because I don't pretend like I have my finger as on the pulse with what's going on the gameplay side, but I have heard that there's a huge discrepancy between the hype of the DLC side and the absolute lack of hype at the local side. Hopefully this can help with that. I know for myself, what's awesome is I get to open product earlier. So that's awesome for me. So that would be very cool to see. Obviously 2 blank spaces there. It's been teased that it's potentially not just Toy Story, but maybe another Pixar IP is going to get dropped with that. It will be interesting to see if they go in, I don't want to say like chronological order with Pixar. If they did, expect to see something like, like Bug's Life and also, what is the other one? Bug's Life and I don't know, Monsters Inc. But I doubt it's going to be Monsters Inc. But anyway, I'm not going to sit here and try and think about it. But realistically, it'll be interesting to see, like, I doubt that they're just going to splash something like Cars in there or something like that. It probably will be early release Pixar, similar to Toy Story, but might not be Pixar at all. It might just be a totally different IP that comes into the mix. Will be super interesting to see things both on the Japanese market and also the pre-release market, how those things shake themselves out. Very interesting stuff there. Let's go ahead and hop into the market and see what's going on in today's market. And the first thing I want to call out and talk about is going to be the Whispers in the Well booster box case that we're starting to get a little bit more data on, and let's do a once over of it. Obviously, we see that we are taking that sharp fall from grace. That's not too surprising. We also see we have average market coming in at about $397. If you do want to get your hands on a case right now, it's looking like $426 lowest verified listing. Now, this is not too surprising. Actually, I'm going to go back down here and show that we started at this 650 watermark here, right? This is going to be pre-release. This is going to be when there's FOMO coming in, things of that nature. We have taken that dip. That is not surprising. We also saw that with Fable, right? So that's not surprising at all. However, when we look at the compare and contrast with what we are seeing with Whispers in the Well compared to Fabled, it's pretty jarring. I'm not gonna lie, and it's not overly surprising, but it is pretty stark, the contrast that we see here. So obviously we go in and we see that we have this market price coming in at just about $400. We go down and look at the Fabled market, and we see average market for a Fabled case today, almost like $80 to $100, like almost $100 more for a Fabled case. And I mean, at the same time, this has already been out there. There has already been multiple runs of this. Like, I mean, we had the first print run and also, I believe, the second that came out potentially as they started flooding more into the market during like DLC Milwaukee and some other like CCG events, things like that. Kind of, honestly, I would say I'm surprised. I'm not like totally surprised to see this, but it is a sharper fall than I thought Whispers would take early on. However, there's really not much deciphering that we have to do when we figure out and we ask ourselves, like, man, what's going on with this sharp decrease? Like, why is this happening? You really need to look no further than this compare and contrast right here. the Ariel Ethereal Voice versus the Mickey Brave Little Prince. Now, if you walk it back to about 2 months ago, the Mickey Brave Little Prince was that first time, I believe, in Lorcana that there has been a card that I truly had no idea how high the card was going to go. I had no idea where the card was going to land. Guess you could make the same kind of make the same sort of feels when we talk about like Elsa's Spirit of Winter from first chapter. But at that time, the hobby is so young. It's not even a hobby yet. They're just throwing out a booster box and they're trying out a new game, which obviously, it looks like it's, great things are happening for it and hopefully will continue to happen. But back then, 2.5 years ago, that is so long ago to be having those types of conversations. There's also nothing to compare the Elsa to, right? There's only one set out, right? Now we have 10 sets out, right? So at the same time, it's kind of like when we look at the Brave Little Prince and we just see this like massive sharp rise that's going on with the card, it's really, really difficult to now go over here and look at the Ariel. And of course, we're going to have that first like initial dip, right? We're going to have that first initial like, let's get out of the FOMO phase. But I mean, y'all, average market, it's less than half. It's almost a third of the Mickey Brave Little Prince. And really, when you think about things from a sealed perspective, especially a case perspective, where the ratios of being able to pull something are as close to a science as you're going to get, right? I mean, for anybody who doesn't have a ton of experience with this is for you. For those of you who do, just go ahead and listen to me preach to the sort of more green generation here. But when you start going outside of the realm of the LGSs and, the places where you can buy booster boxes, you start going to the secondary market, right? You start going to TCG Player, you start going to eBay and things like that. Buying a booster box is very different than buying a case, right? When you buy a sealed case, you have the ability to say to yourself, assuming that that the case is legitimate, it hasn't been touched, you have the ability to sort of say to yourself, I know for a fact, right? I know that this came straight from the factory that, gave me my sort of fair dealer's chance, gambler's chance at the chase, right? However, with a booster box from, again, secondary markets, eBays, things like that, you go online and you grab yourself a booster box, especially if it's not from a verified seller, if it's just from someone, not me. I don't want to play in those waters, but just someone who just a random person from eBay who says, I'm going to sell you a box. It's very fair and very believable to think that they opened their case, they pulled the Enchanted, they pulled the Iconic, and they threw the other boxes on eBay, right? Where your odds will now go drastically down, right? I think it's very possible you could pull 2 Enchanteds in a case. I've seen it happen, and I've also heard about it from whispers, it's very possible. But the Iconic, right? You pull the Iconic Ariel or Hades or Mickey or Minnie, right? You sell the rest of those boxes. It's almost a bona fide guarantee that there's nothing in there for you, right? So it's very different with the case market versus the box market. So with the case market, what's driving and propping up the case market, very, very much so, is what is if I strike gold, I hit the lottery, what am I gonna hit? When you look at the Ariel versus the Mickey, that is why you're seeing the discrepancy. It really is. It has nothing else to do with it besides that. The Enchanteds from Fabled as well as Whispers, we're going to talk about the Whispers Enchanteds a little bit momentarily, but you have your Dumbos, you have your Cinderellas, you have your sort of mid, high 100, low 200, Enchanteds that are sort of, pacing in both of those sets. It all comes down to being able to pull that one massive chase, right? This is your difference. This is why you're seeing the delta that you're seeing within Fabled and Whispers from a case perspective. And I'll even take it a step further. I do think that it's fair to call these two out as well, both the Hades looking for a deal as well as the Minnie Sweetheart Princess. Again, Minnie is outpacing Hades from both a near mint perspective and also a lowest verified market price perspective, right? We're seeing Minnie coming in here at 821, seeing Hades coming in at 657, and Hades is played. This is a played card. It's why Hades is staying so close and actually outpacing the Ariel right now. Hades is technically the number one highest selling card in the set. Technically right now, Hades is the chase. I do think, a couple of years from now, once we're out of rotation, etc., I do think the Ariel will be the card. I really do. Right now, it's not going to be because the Hades is played. The moment Hades drops out of the meta, I mean, you're probably going to like lose a very significant chunk off of what you have to be able to pay to enter the market to get this card. But even with the Hades being played and the mini seeing no play, like it's nowhere on the radar, it's still outpacing it, man. Like, I mean, so the market has spoken and they have said that the Mickey and the Mini are what you want to tie your money into and where you want to be from a collector's perspective and an investing perspective. And it's not that the Ariel and the Hades aren't there as well. I mean, talking about $600-700 cards around here. I mean, insane value. But really, it, especially for the Ariel right now, it all comes down to the fact that it's like a 1 in 2,000 hit. Like, I mean, truly, like you could have a common. If it's 1 in 2,000 hit, I mean, it's going to be worth, you know, it all comes down to how many of them are in circulation that you can get your hands on. The more scarce of something is, the more people are going to want to get their hands on it, right? So it really just comes down to that. I will be very interested to see how things continue to progress, but I really do think that we've started to gather enough data coming out of the worldwide release for Whispers. I'm willing to give it one more week. I'm willing to see how things shake out a little bit more, but I am getting the vibes that Hades is going to be the pace setting card from Whispers because of, similar to like a Cinderella being the pace setter for Enchanteds, Dumbo being pace setter for Fabled for Enchanteds. It's played, right? It's played. It's a beautiful card, hard to pull. It's played. It's got everything going for it, at least for now. So we will see how that goes for the Hades and the Ariel moving forward, but also want to talk a little bit about just what I'm seeing from a market perspective with Whispers in general. So obviously we just talked about Hades and Ariel. I'm going to go row by row here and just do like a quick once over. So let's take this first top row here and let's just talk about the Hades, the Ariel, the Cinderella, and the Goliath. And I mean, right now I'd pretty much tell you like the only card that I'd be even considering is right there. Again, Hades, Cinderella, Goliath, all very played. Very played. And not only are they played, we're going to talk about Cindy in a minute here. They're liquid, like extremely liquid. Like they are being sold like hotcakes, which means that the seller market is so much more in control of what the prices are going to be of these cards. Obviously, Ariel is a massive investment. I'm not saying like just like go scoop one right now because I said to go do it or anything like that. But what I will say with Ariel is like, if you're saying to yourself, I want to make my mark in the Whisper set and I'm looking for something to be able to get my hands on, like, where do I start, right? I mean, if you're looking to get a premium on your investment, Ariel's the move right now. Like, again, I do think long term, it stands to reason that it's going to slide up to the number one spot. But at the same time, again, she's jockeying with a bunch of cards that are played. And again, Ariel is 587 versus like a Goliath that's 198. So some of it just kind of comes down to like, yeah, but I don't have $587. I got a couple $100, but I don't have 500. So there is that going on too. I'm just purely talking from like a percentages perspective. How sort of overheated are these cards? Ariel's the only one on the top of the list that's not overheated right now, right? So I would say that's what you're looking at if you're kind of going tier 1. Let's go down tier 2. Let's look at everything from the Demona all the way to the Can't Hold It Back Anymore, if I could be able to do the mark there. So once again, I'm going to go same exact thing. I'm going to say Demona, Spooky Sight, Webby, all for different variables, overheated. The only card that I would say right now that I'd be focused on is the Can't Hold It Back Anymore. Now, we talked about this card last week. I remember this card being around this price, actually probably a little bit less. And I remember saying it a week ago. I said to myself, like, and I said to y'all, I was like, if I am here a week from now, which is today, and this card continues to go lower, I'm going in, right? And honestly, for what it's worth, I very much thought that it was going to. Like, I was just kind of like, I realize it's Elsa, I realize it's, Frozen, but man, I mean, there are very, very, like, very strong market indicators and critical events that affect the market, like going from pre-release to local game store release to worldwide release, like going from like you can't get it and then you can only get it in local game stores and then you can only get it at local game stores to you can get it everywhere. Those are massive critical events. Like, I mean, you are just tidal waving product into the market, and going from the pre like LGS release to worldwide release, like there's only so many LGSs, we'll just keep it with the Western world. There's only so many LGSs in America. There's a whole lot of Targets, Walmarts, and Best Buys in America, right? So like when you start bringing it in from that perspective, I'm actually shocked that this card held up, but it did. And it shows that people do still see the collectability with this card, which I guess I'm happy and sad all at once. I mean, obviously I'm happy because I'm like, good. Like I don't want to be going against like what I think from an Elsa perspective, with being collectible, because it's kind of one of like the big things that I really do think that Lorcana is like from a collector's perspective, like Elsa and Mickey they're big. Like that they're a very, very big deal. But I was like, man, I just feel like this worldwide release, she's going to go lower. I was kind of hoping she did, because I just know that long term this card under $100 would be absolutely just be diabolical. So I mean, I'm sad, but also I'm happy to see that it held up. I'm happy for that card. So anyway, Webby and Demona played Overheated. Don't do it. Spooky Sight. I compare Spooky Sight. Yes, it is technically it is playable. I also look at Spooky Sight. It like I said, to me, it's got some Winnie the Pooh vibes. Winnie the Pooh. I don't want to go into it right now. Winnie the Pooh. 0 text on the card, on the Enchanted, still holding over $200 market price. Absolutely bonkers. Love to see it. Awesome. I think Spooky Sight has some sort of mascot vibes going on with it. Wouldn't even shock me if it was a playmat in the next set or two down the road. Like, I mean, people love that artwork. So they absolutely killed it with that artwork. And then I would say, like, going down here as we get a little bit lower, this is where I would kind of start to say, like, I'm going to use right Headless Horseman probably as sort of my like borderline. Anything lower than Headless Horseman, I would say, like, go ahead, do it if you want to. Like at that point, we're starting to sort of play in the world of like, none of these enchanteds are going to be like over the top crazy, because if they were played, then they would have a little bit more of a premium kind of, bubbling them up to the surface. Headless Horseman and Malicious, Mean and Scary, both very played. So yeah, I would kind of say like anything past that you see underneath here, go for it. Like let it rip. And honestly, let it rip in general. Like, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, like if it's something that you want and you're going to hold it for the long term, let it rip. You know what I mean? Like if you want a card, go get a card. That's always rule number one. If you want something and it's going to make you happy, let it rip. All right. So let's go in and talk a little bit more about Cinderella, because I mean, I do think that this is the card that will be worth tracking. I mean, obviously very similar. Like we've compared this card in the past to Dumbo and things like that, where this is like one of the absolute meta setting cards right now. And honestly, like it is pretty wild what I'm seeing here from the market perspective, from the Enchanted as well as the Legendary. Two totally different markets, but it tells you the same story. So here's what I mean by that. So we go down, look at Cinderella, we're seeing average market price come in around $315. However, when you go look at Cinderella, like, oh, I want to get my hands on one for $315. You cannot do that. And not only can you not do that for $315, you can't do it for $415. Like, I mean, this card from TCG player perspective, you cannot get your hands on this card at fair market value right now, which means that the card isn't being, it either is a buyout or people who are pulling it aren't selling it because they want to play it, right? So because that market is so scarce, you're either seeing buyouts or you're seeing like, well, I pulled it, I want to play it, like I don't want, I don't want to get rid of it right now. That's the market for the Enchanted. The market for the Legendary, I know we don't do a lot of Legendaries on the channel, but I do think it's important to call this card out. Completely different market. Okay, y'all, like this card is absolutely, this has got to be the most liquid card in the hobby right now. I mean, it's insane. I mean, like every day that goes by, and I understand that like, so like November 7th when we're doing like, like official like pre-release where you can actually like get your hands on a physical copy and not just like, like late October where it's like, oh, hey, pre-order all this stuff. Like, no, you can actually get your hands on it. 263 Cindy's sold. And yes, that makes sense because it is like, it's the first like time that you can really get it. So people are just going to go tidal wave after it. But it's not like it's not like it really stopped that much. 109 sold the next day. 97 sold the next day. 62 sold the next day. 67. Like, I mean, like this card is like, there are just absolute chunks of this card being siphoned off on TCG Player every single day. And to be fair, I mean, like, yes, I wouldn't necessarily say what you're looking at here is a buyout. Like that, the delta is too close, right? You see, we have 65 lowest verified, and then you also see like coming in like average market is 55. $10 delta on a card like this, it's a little too close. It kind of just tells me that the card is moving very fast and that the seller's market is just very in control of it. Like, I mean, as this card continues to sell, you do see a lot of times like average market for TCG player, as a card is moving super fast like a Cinderella, you start to see that like the TCG player average market price, it's really just lagging slightly behind what's actually going on in the actual market, right? Like the market is telling you that this right now is a $65 card. There are so many of these legendaries right now. Like I see people pulling cases and they're pulling multiple Cindy's. Like, you know, we pulled one in our case. Like, I mean, this isn't a card that's like impossible to pull. Like it's very pullable. And honestly, I'd say like decent chance you pull multiple in a case. So for this card to be, you know, kind of moving as fast as it's moving, it's not surprising at all. So it's really hard to have a buyout when you think about it like that because it's brand new. People want it. The higher up it goes, it's going to convince more people to say to themselves, like, maybe I should sell mine. Now it's worth 65. Now it's worth 75. At some point, it's going to get high enough where there's going to be another wave of people who are like, I mean, I wasn't going to sell it, but man, I mean, this card is so expensive. Like, let's do this thing, you know? So that's what's going on with the Cindy. From an enchanted perspective, there are so fewer of them that it's hard to like just be siphoning off over and over and over. It's not as easy to do because it's so difficult to pull. There's so many less of them in circulation versus, again, the legendary. Like, I think like there's probably a very good chance that you're going to get one in any time you open a case, right? So it is very interesting to see, but the moral of the story on this card is it's hot. Everybody wants it and or everybody wants to profit off of it. Like this is a very interesting card right now. And it will continue to be so if you run 4 in every Sapphire deck. If it's mandatory 4, which I have not heard anything about that. Obviously, I try to listen to what I can, and it sounds like you have to run it. But like I've heard people who I'd like to trust say like you could run 2, you could run 4, you know, like you know. So if that's the case, I really do think you're gonna see a tapering off, especially as we get into Winter Spell. There, like the power creep is absolutely wild right now. It is berserk. I'm sure you will see something in Winter Spell that will deal with it and or, you know, I don't know what's going to happen from a reprint perspective, things like that. But right now with Whispers, like it's all about the legendaries, man. Like if you're opening those boxes, like you pull Cindy, you pull Hades, I mean, there's a lot of cards, man, where you pull it, like, you know, Demona, like pull it, get rid of it, like, you know, and you can at least get back a little bit of what you invested into, especially if you already have those cards, right? Like if you do binders like I do, you complete full sets. Right? Like, oh, cool. I have a Demona cold foil. I have a regular Demona. I just pulled, you know, Demona. Okay. Like, now's your time to absolutely go ahead and move those out the door, right? Okay. So very good stuff there. Let's finish by talking a little bit about the secondary market as it pertains to Cindy, because that's what I mean, honestly, that's very much what I want to focus on. Obviously, we do see a couple of different sales here coming through. So you see a sale on Cindy at $325. You know, very much in line with the $315 average market price. You get pictures of it. Like, I mean, that's fantastic, right? That's amazing. If you can find it, okay? Because from what I have been seeing tracking it the last few days, you're kind of going to get a vibe similar to this, okay? There is one that's higher than this, but it's outside the United States, and then you got to pay extra for shipping, and then that kind of defeats the whole point. So we're going to just stick with locally within region, right? So looking at it again, like, yes, there's a Cindy right here sitting at $350. At time of this recording, I pressed the record button, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago. Wouldn't shock me in the slightest if this card was sold. And then what you are left with is a massive jump up to where the market believes that, like, eventually, like, basically people who don't want to, some people who don't want to babysit their listing, they're gonna mark it up at a high premium and just kind of know that if someone clicks that sold button, it's like overnight, it spikes, there's buyouts, things like that. Someone can live with saying to themselves, like, yeah, sure, like I'll, like 425, like if that's what ends up happening and just roasts up in price, I'm okay getting rid of it. That's okay. That's chill. You know, and so what you're kind of seeing here is you're seeing like the market for the fair market value Cinderella enchantments on secondary market, on TCG player. They're like borderline not existent. Like if you want to go get your hands on one, you really have to be like quick with it on TCG player. Honestly, I see something like this, like as you know, from myself, like I am very much that person where it's like, I will go focus on anything else right now. I know for like, not 100% fact, but I know for a pretty darn sure fact that the day will come that Cindy is not worth what it used to be, right? You look at the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation, that card's under like $200 right now. I mean, that card is like, honestly, it wouldn't shock me. I haven't looked at it in a couple weeks. Wouldn't shock me if it's under 150. Like, and that card was the darling card, pre, rotation where, where you had the ability to play it and there were less sets, there were less beautiful arts, there were less chase cards, less alt arts, things like that. We will live in a world where the Dumbo, the Cindy, they'll all come down. They will come down. Even something as absolutely incredibly magnificent as the artwork of this card, which is one of the iconic one of the incredible Disney princesses. I shouldn't use the word iconic, but right now is not the time. However, people are going to say, I want to run this in my deck, or I want to complete my master set right now. I don't care. Like, I just want to do it. I want to deal with it, get done with it. So I'm like prepared and my money is saved up for when Winter Spell drops and stuff like that, right? Like, if that is you and you're somebody who's YOLOing and like you're ready to just go, like, you're really going to have to be on it. You're going to have to be on it with the secondaries, and you're also going to have to very much like 350. It's not quite market, but it's kind of like, tomorrow it might be 370, and the next thing you know, like the standard is 400, and you want to get it right now, right? And that's where FOMOing is. It's hard, right? Like wanting to grab something when everybody else wants something. This is what you have to deal with. Obviously, I'm not in the market for it, but if I were someone who's like, I don't care, like I'm trying to do this, that's fair. Like, I really think that's fair. You're going to kick it a nickel. You're going to go from 315 to 350. But I mean, at the end of the day, you want it bad enough that like, let's get it done. Right. So very interesting on that side of things. The enchanted market is extremely hot with whispers. The legendary market, that's very exciting. Quite frankly, the only thing that's bogging it down is the iconic market. And that's okay. It really is okay because they're two beautiful cards. We don't know for sure. It does feel like they might be slightly easier to pull. We do not know that yet. But what is super, super encouraging is that everything from Legendary and up, excluding the Epics, is extremely, extremely sought after right now, whether it be from a gameplay perspective or a collector's perspective, which is super exciting. But y'all, that is going to do it for another episode of Market Watch. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see y'all on the other side.